Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Sinead Aherne. Today's top stories. The Minister with responsibility for mental health is visiting Waterford today. There was a 700% increase in the number of people waiting for home care support in Waterford. Half of the country's coastal waters, rivers and lakes have unacceptable levels of pollution. While in sport, Waterford County Board spent an additional €35,000 on inter-county teams this year. The Minister of State with responsibility for mental health is visiting University Hospital Waterford this lunchtime. It's after photos emerged in recent weeks of patients sleeping on the floors and chairs at the hospital's Department of Psychiatry due to overcrowding. Jim Daly says the recruitment and retention of staff is an ongoing challenge. Around 30% of psychiatric nursing positions in Waterford are vacant. Minister Daly explains how he's tackling the issue.
It's no good just acknowledging it and talking about it. I have to address it. What I have done in the last couple of years is put forward funding to train an additional 130 psychiatric nurses each and every year in addition to what we're already training per year. So we've increased the training cohort by 130. So that will start to kick in next year in 2020. You will see the benefit of that, where you will have 130 additional graduate psychiatric nurses each and every year going forward for the next 4 or 5 years, and we will continue that.
A Fianna Fáil TD says there was a 700% increase in the number of people waiting for home care support in Waterford. Figures released to Deputy Mary Butler show almost 8,000 older people nationwide are waiting for supports that would enable them to remain in their homes longer. They also revealed that the HSE also failed to reach its target in Waterford by 95,000 hours. Deputy Butler says she warned in September that older people were facing a winter of discontent.
Waterford has seen proportionately the biggest increase, going up almost 700%. In February of this year, there was 31 people in Waterford waiting for home care supports. And now, just 8 months later, there are 244 people waiting. And the reality on the ground for carers looking after loved ones is pure desperation. I am inundated every day of the week, people contacting me. I'm spokesperson for Fianna Fáil for older people. And these people contact me. They have mothers, fathers, they have grandparents who need these supports to stay at home.
She says the HSE are already way behind their own targets in Waterford.
Currently at this stage in the year, 405,000 home care support hours should have been delivered in Waterford, and we're only at 310,000 hours. So that's a shortage of 23%. That gives rise to your waiting list of 244 people, because if you have a situation that we're not delivering our target, obviously people are going to be waiting.
There are calls for an investigation into a reported loss of marine life in the Waterford estuary. It follows an Environmental Protection Agency report into Ireland's waterways, which has found roughly half of the country's coastal waters, rivers and lakes have unacceptable levels of pollution. Videos have been posted on social media showing a foam-like substance lying on top of the water in the Waterford estuary. Sean Doherty is a fisherman from Cheekpoint.
I think something needs to be done. There's been dramatic changes in the last number of years in the Waterford estuary. Like, it's apparent to anybody who lives alongside the river or who have walked on the river. You know, we've got to the situation now where we see a major mussel die off in the estuary. We don't know whether it's natural or whether it is from pollution, but we suspect it's not natural.
Speaking to Damien Tiernan on Daysha Today, Shane O'Boyle of the EPA says foam can be natural.
People do sometimes get alarmed if they see foam on the water or see foam along the beach. It's difficult, obviously, just to say in this specific case, but typically it's the result of some natural phenomena. It typically happens after a plankton bloom in the water. When those plankton cells break up, they tend to float to the surface. There's little bits and particles of algal bloom, and that tends to act like a surfactant. It attracts different bubbles, and that's where you get the accumulation of foam.
A sixth person has died in New Zealand following the White Island volcanic eruption. Police say one of the dozens being treated in hospital has passed away. 8 people on the island are missing, presumed dead, and scientists are worried there could be another eruption. This woman, whose nephew's unaccounted for, says her family can do nothing but hope.
We're just staying strong for one another until we actually know for sure. Like they have said that those who are on the island have there's no survivors.
The FAI board won't be attending tomorrow's Emergency Oireachtas Committee meeting to discuss its financial situation. It says it's focused on a refinancing package to guarantee the future of the FAI and safeguard jobs instead. Shane Beattie reports.
Last Friday we learned the FAI has current liabilities of more than €55 million, with auditors unable to guarantee it can continue as a going concern. The Oireachtas Sport Committee invited IT Minister Shane Ross and Sport Ireland to an emergency meeting tomorrow, but the FAI says it won't be going because its board is focused on a refinancing package that will guarantee the future of the FAI and safeguard jobs. SIP2's Dennis Hines, who represents FAI employees, says the board should be respecting the committee.
Very disappointed, and I'm sure the staff would share my views, and I think that the association has to work as closely as they can now with the government to be seen to respect the elected politicians. I just can't understand why would not turn up tomorrow.
Minister Shane Ross also won't be attending, saying that while he's happy to meet the committee, it shouldn't be before progress is made on restoring funding to grassroots football. Stephen McGuinness from the Professional Footballers Association of Ireland is worried a generation of players will be lost.
The lack of investment now that is going to be able to be put back into the game, both at grassroots level and right up the scales, there's potential of some of our better younger players. That doesn't look like that's going to happen if we have these debts to pay back.
The FAI will likely be invited again to appear before the committee next week.
The Dáil will debate whether or not to freeze rents for 3 years tonight. A bill being brought by Sinn Féin would see rent levels capped as they are and examine a tax credit for renters. The government's opposing the move, saying there isn't sufficient evidence a rent freeze works. Sinn Féin's housing spokesperson Owen O'Vryn says it's aimed at making things more affordable for renters.
Sinn Féin for the last 2 years have called for rents to be reduced and to be frozen, and the bill in front of us today is to do just that. It's calling on the government to introduce a refundable tax credit to put a month's rent back in the pocket of every renter in the state, and it's also introducing a rent freeze so rents can't rise both for existing tenancies and new tenancies.
Over 7 in 10 Irish workers have thought about moving to a different county for work. A new jobs.ie survey showed most would choose Galway and then Cork above Dublin when relocating for a job, while 16% said they'd choose Waterford. The research discovered staff no longer want to work for a specific company but are prioritising quality of life. Jobs.ie General Manager Christopher Pay says Waterford is a popular choice.
There's a lot of people already looking who are willing to move to Waterford. So sometimes when employers are thinking about what their catchment area is, they might think, okay, my catchment area is within, a 20 or 30 mile radius, and I think that's changed.
He says employers in Waterford need to use these findings to attract staff.
16% of those surveys said they would move to Waterford, which is actually a fairly substantial amount given that it's not one of the major, it's not Dublin or Cork, it's not one of the major cities. But 40% of those people said they would leave Dublin to move to Waterford. And I think that's really interesting. So for employers, they just need to think more about, how can they attract those people down now.
WLR Sport.
Starting with Gaelic Games, where the Waterford County Board have recorded a surplus of just over €47,000 in their 2019 accounts ahead of Thursday's annual convention in Dungarvan. More than €434,000 was spent on the senior hurlers, up 10,000 on 2018. The total for the senior footballers was 279,000, a jump of almost 58,000. Sponsors TQS Integration have committed to Waterford for a third season. Sean Michael O'Regan from Kill will succeed Paddy Joe Ryan as chairman on Thursday night. Ryan's completed his 5-year term at the helm. Ray Hennessy from Kill GAA Club says Sean Michael O'Regan taking on the role of chairman will be an honour for the club.
Started off as secretary of our club, I think, back in the early 90s, and he was always interested in administration. He always played, he played the game at a good level himself, and then he went on to be chairman of our own club, Eastern Board, vice chairman. He was always destined, Sean Michael was always destined for a higher position, and we're so proud of him in the club. It's a great day for our club. First time we've a chairman of the county board has come from Kill.
To soccer, where European champions Liverpool need a point in Austria this evening to secure their place in the last 16 of the Champions League. Jurgen Klopp's side are currently top of Group E and will guarantee top spot with a win at Red Bull Salzburg. And the German boss says his side's success is based on taking it one game at a time.
It's the most important game in our life because there is no other one. So, and that's exactly what it is. And when we play that, then we can think about the next Premier League game. But it's nothing to do with the situation in the Premier League. The situation in the Champions League group is okay, but far away from being brilliant. But it's a basis we can work with, and that's what we have to show tomorrow.
Kick-off is at 5-6 with Napoli hosting Genk at the same time in that group. Elsewhere, Chelsea must beat Lille to ensure qualification for the knockout stages. Frank Lampard's side know a draw will do if Valencia lose to Ajax in tonight's other Group H fixture. Both games get underway at 8. In rugby, Munster's Arno Botha will attend a disciplinary hearing in London tomorrow. It comes ahead of their Champions Cup clash away to Saracens on Saturday. Botha was shown a red card in the closing stages of Saturday's 10-3 win over this weekend's repeat opponents. The South African was deemed to have struck Saracens' Nick Tompkins with his leading arm. And in boxing, Waterford pro boxer Dylan Moran signed a new contract with PGP Boxing and is relocated to Liechtenstein, where they're based. The 25-year-old will be in action tonight in Kitzbühel in Austria against Milos Janjanin from Herzegovina. That's the latest on WLR. Our next bulletin is at 2.